Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am one of your hosts, Memo, and right beside me, I've got Hoops. How you doing?
What's going on, man? Overall, I've been doing I say good for the most part. Obviously, we are coming back from our brief hiatus, that being the holiday season. Um
Happy
Christmas
New Year,
and
everybody.
New
By the
Year.
way,
Yeah, happy New Year's to everyone. I would say New Year, new me, but I'm not trying to jinx anything after 2020, so I'm just gonna stay silent on all that stuff. Um, but on the real though, I do hope that this really is everyone's year. Um, yeah, and yeah, obviously having taken I guess technically, it's really like a technically it's like a 2 week span, but just one episode skip. Um, Through within the 2 weeks, there's been a little bit of madness that came down in the league, whether it's like a trade or news or even like good basketball games, whether Christmas Day or other days. So definitely something exciting to cover coming this episode. Um, But how about you, man? How's everything been going for you?
uh, pretty good. I mean, I've been having this like long break from work, which has been nice, and I've been at like the most laziest state I've have ever been in. Like I barely left the house. I have been working on a lot of videos for my other channel, the music channel. I do list week every week where I list out like the best and the worst music from 2024. I There's a few episodes out now. So if you guys want to check it, if Hoops you want to check it out, maybe I can put you onto some, or you could watch me roast like the newest Katy Perry album or something like that. Those videos should be, oh, most of them should be out by the time this episode is out. A couple are out right now for sure. But
Yeah. I have not listened to the Katy Perry album yet,
don't
FYI.
bother. It's not good. I roasted a lot of uh like songs and albums that like more so than usual. Like I was really like heated this time going after like a bunch of uh songs and from like artists that I just like don't care for. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been like editing for hours almost every day. I still need to edit one more video. But other than that, I've been lazy. I've been at home. I've been watching shows like Smiling Friends, or I just finished um what's it called? Squid Game season 2. I just finished that today.
Oh, nice.
Just watching it while my dog was sleeping right next to me. So I've been just chilling this whole time.
That's cool. Yeah, I haven't watched Squid Game season 2 yet, but definitely gonna get on that very soon. And as far as smiling friends go, I know that like cartoon is a really big meme for like I know there's like this one GIF that is really weird. Now, I'm not familiar with the characters, so I don't know like the names or whatnot to be specific. But there's that one where the guy is just like doing like a shaking his head type thing, like he's totally I guess
I think
over
I
his
know
life or
what you're
something.
talking about. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
stupid
that show
show, but I like it. It's my
looks
kind of
dumb.
stupid. Yeah.
I mean, if you like it, then maybe it's not as bad as it looks, but yeah, some of those shows tend to look dumb, but if you actually watch it, it's not as bad. I
Well,
mean, the
this
common
one is
saying is
very dumb. I won't lie. It's very
very
dumb.
dumb, but
But
you
I think
like
it's
it.
funny. I think it's funny.
Okay, well, that happens too, and obviously the common saying is don't judge a book by its cover, but I'll admit that's kind of hard to do. A lot of times people do tend to judge a book by its cover because how could you not in certain situations? But yeah, glad you were able to enjoy yourself during your time off. And shall we get to the agenda now?
I guess so. We can go over the NBA standings really quickly before we cover a bunch of games. Um, it's been a while, so I really don't remember
Uh,
this time who
I,
went first with the
I
West.
honestly, I'm not 100% sure who went over the West last time, but it might have been me. So I guess you can go over West this time.
All right, so I'll do that. Going over the Western Conference now. At number 15, we've got the Pelicans with a 6-29 record. Jazz at 14 with a 7-25 record. Trailblazers at 13, 11-22 record. Kings at number 12 with a 16-19 record. Suns at number 11 with a 15-17 record. Timberwolves at number 10 with a 17-16 record. Also with a 17-16 record. The Warriors at number 9. The Spurs have an 18-16 record at number 8. They've been killing it lately. I think they just beat the Nuggets like right now, so that's good for them. The Clippers are number 7 with a 19-15 record. Kawhi, I forgot to put this in the notes, but Kawhi should be coming back really soon. Um, the Mavericks at number 6 with a 20-15 record. Nuggets at number 5 with a 19-14 record. The Lakers, home court advantage, at number 4 with a 20-14 record. Rockets at number 3 with a 22-12 record. Grizzlies at number 2 with a 23-12 record. And at the tippity top by like a huge lead, now looking at it, the Thunder at number 1 with a 29-5 record. So that is the West. Hoops, you got the East.
Yes, sir. So at the very bottom of the Eastern Conference, we got the Washington Wizards at 6-26. At number 14, we got the Hornets at 7-26. At number 13, we got the Raptors at 8-27. At number 12, we got the Nets at 13-21. At number 11, we got the Sixers at 13-19. At number 10, we got the Bulls at 15-19. At number 9, we got the Pistons at 16-18. At number 8, we got the Pacers at 17-18. At number 7, we got the Hawks at 18-17. At number 6, we got the Heat at 17-15. At number 5, we got the Bucks at 17-15. At number 4, we got the Magic at 21-15. At number 3, we got the Knicks at 24-11. At number 2, we got the Celtics at 26-9. And still sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference by a little bit of a cushion now, but still not safe by any means. We have the Cavs at 30-4. So those are our Eastern Conference standings.
All right, so now what we're going to do, we are going to transition into the top games within the last 2 weeks. Now, this list was curated by Hoops himself, so I'm going to actually have him take the lead with this and go over some of the biggest games that happened while we were on break. So, Hoops, take the reins.
Yes, sir. So I ended up listing 6 games that I thought were very good and worthy to talk about within the last 2 weeks. And that starts with the Celtics versus Magic game on December 23rd, so right before Christmas, and not too long after our break. Um, so Celtics were dominating most of the game up until late third quarter, and they even led by as much as 15. But in the fourth quarter, Magic ended up dominating and they led most of the way late. Orlando went up by as much as 10 in the fourth quarter, and ultimately with the Celtics trying to climb back, they fell short, and the Magic was able to win this game by 4 points. And I want to give a special shout out to the player of the game, Trevlin Queen, who spent much of his career in the G League, and he had a breakout game. 17 points on 5 for 9 field goals, including 3 for 4 from 3-point range. And as a friendly reminder, Trevlin Queen did happen to be on the Lakers Summer League team in 2021. So shout out to former Lakers Summer League legend Trevlin Queen for a great breakout game. And so, I guess, is there anything you would like to add on this game, or should I just go to the next one?
Just go to the next one because I did not check out this game, but I'll definitely talk more after you cover all the Christmas games because you have quite a few Christmas games to talk about. I see.
Yes, sir. I mean, Christmas Day had some pretty good games this year, I will say. And the first one that really stood out was the Spurs versus the Knicks. Now, this happened to be the first game on Christmas, and when the game was first released, a lot of people didn't look very highly into this game. I mean, like, you're talking about one team that's pretty good and another team that was just mediocre. But don't look now, the Spurs are on the come up. And so, that being said, this was a back and forth game. Sneaky good scheduling for NBA in a game that many people didn't very look highly initially. And it was the Wemby versus Mikal Bridges show. I know. You think about it and it's like, really? Wemby versus Mikal Bridges? I mean, obviously, we know who's going to take that battle. And technically, Wemby did do a little bit more, maybe, but his team unfortunately was not able to come up on top. That being said, Wemby put up 42 points on 16 for 31 shooting, including 6 threes. Very impressive for a big man. And for Mikal Bridges, he put up 41 points on 17 for 25 shooting, and also 6 threes, that being on 6 of 9 3-point shooting. So pretty efficient there. And at the end, the Knicks were able to outlast the Spurs 117 to 114. So that was a pretty good opening game to start Christmas Day. And so that leads us to the next game on the list, with being the Sixers and the Celtics on Christmas Day. And this game really shocked me. Sixers dominated most of the game. Celtics led early, but then Sixers led for about 2 full quarters and went up by as much as 16 at one point. But the Celtics then made a rally late in the third and took the lead for a few minutes. But then, to start the fourth, Sixers caught fire and were able to once again rebuild a 15-point lead. And towards the end, the game got much more interesting than it should have been. I mean, like, Sixers were literally trying to throw the game away due with like a lot of dumb errors. Like, you can't be doing that, especially against the Celtics. And so by doing that, they were allowing the Celtics to claw back and stay within the game. There's 3:20 left in the game. Tyrese Maxey committed 3 careless turnovers in under 1 minute. And the most embarrassing one of all was when he took a dribble right past half court and then he stepped back. Like, you can't be doing that, man. But nonetheless, due to those careless turnovers, Celtics were able to cut a 14-point deficit to only 3 within 2 minutes. But at the end, Sixers were able to hang on and win thanks to Celtics missing some threes late, and when then they had to send the Sixers to the line. So this was a very ugly ending, but it was a great grind out victory for the Sixers at the end. So yeah, Sixers were pretty much rolling at this point. And a great win for them on Christmas Day against the defending champs. So that leads us to another Christmas Day game, which is the last one I have on this list, being Lakers versus Warriors, Steph versus LeBron, meeting on Christmas Day again. Forced meeting, I believe. I think LeBron actually has a lead now, 3-1 in those Christmas Day meetings, so good for him. Two of them were Cavs versus Warriors, and then two of them were Lakers versus Warriors. So
Doesn't he have a
pretty cool.
stat out there where he has like the most wins in Christmas game history, something like that?
I would not be shocked, honestly. Like, I don't know what his exact number is, but I do notice LeBron has won a lot of Christmas Day games. And unfortunately, a few of them did come against the Lakers when he was on the Cavs and the Heat. Yeah, those are frustrating back in the day when LeBron was a rival instead of on our team, but great to have him on our team now. Anyhow, going into this game, Warriors started off strong and they led for most of the first, but the Lakers held control for most of the game from mid-second quarter to the end. After leading by as much as 11, the Lakers were tied a few times due to Warriors scoring spurts. And at the end of the game, it looked like maybe the Lakers were able to just secure the win without any sweat. as they were up by 9 with 130 left. But the Warriors, they cut the lead to within 2 in only 26 seconds of game time. Yikes. So, yeah, that was very stressful for Lakers' sake at the end. Like, damn, are we really going to choke this game? I hope not. Well, here's how the game ended. So the Warriors started to foul. Lakers made clutch free throws. And Steph was clutch too. He hit 2 clutch threes, and he was ultimately able to tie the game with 6 seconds left. And so that puts us on the very last possession of the game. 6 seconds left. Lakers had the ball. Inbound pass. Austin Reeves turns the corner, drives to the basket for the game-winning layup, and the shot goes down. Lakers wins this game 115 to 113. Very great game. Did not disappoint. If this does happen to be the last Christmas Day game between Braun and Steph, man, was it a good one. I mean, you're talking about going down to the wire and literally a game-winning shot to end it. Like, if that's just about as good as they can get. Now, maybe if it was like a LeBron or Steph game winner, then it would have been even more cinematic. But nonetheless, a game winner, very cinematic. This was a good, much-needed win for the Lakers, who were struggling before this game. And yeah, really good game here, and I think all 3 of those Christmas Day games were also very good for the scheduling. Good job on the NBA there. And I think this is where I will transition and let Memo talk about his thoughts on NBA Christmas Day games this year.
Well, as you said, the NBA did kill it this year because a lot of these games were close. There was a lot of great performances, like Mikal Bridges making like 40 points. Wemby has like a top 5 most points in their debut game, with his first game against the Knicks at on Christmas Day. We got a game winner from Austin Reeves. So there was a lot of great things that happened this Christmas Day on a day where it's usually the NBA's day. This is our day where we just have 5 games playing on a single day throughout Christmas, and for some reason the NFL wants to take that away from us. For some reason, I believe we're streaming their games on Netflix to get like more people to watch. They had Beyonce perform during a halftime show. I heard the games were bad. I don't know. I don't watch football. Most of the games to me are boring. But with that said, even though NFL came in and tried to take our day away, the NBA had a fantastic stretch of games, and the viewership was up more than last year. This is still the NBA's day. Even though the NFL was trying to take it away from us, even though there's a lot of conversation around why viewership is going down, which I feel like is a stupid conversation. A lot of people are saying there's too many threes, even though one of the most exciting players in the league for the last like 10 years has been Stephen Curry, who all he does is shoot threes and everybody loves him. All the kids have his shoes. All the kids want to play like Curry. We've seen his impact. He makes the game exciting, and we're complaining that there's too many threes, even though we've seen a player become one of the best players in the world, one of the most popular players in the world, due to his 3-point shooting. I feel like that's I feel like the 3-point shooting thing is a scapegoat from the actual issue, which is it's just difficult to watch these games. Like, thank God this year for Christmas, the games were also on Disney Plus, or else I wouldn't have been able to watch it. We don't have cable anymore. I don't have ESPN. It's hard to actually watch these games without using some third-party services that I won't get into more details about. I think that's the true reason why ratings and viewership is going down. But nevertheless, though, like, the NBA did come through with this slate of games on Christmas Day, on a day where we on a day that they have more competition than ever, and they killed it. Like as LeBron said, this is the NBA's day, and I don't think it's gonna take a lot more than Beyonce and a couple of boring football games to take this day from us. So let us at least have this one game or one day. NFL, you guys are by far more popular in the United States. You guys basically have every other day. Let us have Christmas because as we saw, it's a lot more fun having 5 NBA basketball games on Christmas Day than it is to have a couple of football games. So I'll leave it there. A lot of great games. Shout out Austin Reeves for getting us that win. And yeah, that's it on my thoughts on those Christmas games.
Yeah. First off, agreed. Christmas Day games were really good for NBA. Good job scheduling there. And as far as the NFL goes, yeah. Contrary to Memo, I do happen to watch football, but even then, I got to like confirm he's correct because those games were absolutely snooze fest. I mean, both of them were blowouts, not even close. Probably the number one highlight was the Beyonce halftime show, and even then, like, and I do like Beyonce. She is a good singer. But if you're gonna ask me between watching a halftime show versus an actual game, I probably will watch the game unless it's a game that I really don't care about. But yeah. Point be made is I agree. Christmas Day is the NBA's day. Thanksgiving Day is the NFL's day. But even then, like NFL needs to do better with their scheduling on Thanksgiving Day. They have had a lot of snooze fest on Thanksgiving Day as well. I mean, if Thanksgiving Day is NFL's day, then let Christmas Day be NBA's day. Or maybe NBA can start countering the NFL and play some games on Thanksgiving. Maybe they did a while back. I feel like I maybe remember the NBA having a Thanksgiving game like 15 years ago, but I can't confirm. Um, Point be made is I definitely do think that it's no debate. NBA Christmas Day is the day for NBA games, as LeBron said, and I will say, the NFL really took like a major reach with the Christmas days this year because usually NFL games are on Sunday, Monday, Thursday. Then if it's a holiday season, maybe Saturday. But they went out of their way to do a Wednesday game this year, which usually doesn't happen aside from COVID when they had to postpone out of the blue. So yeah, overall I agree. Christmas Day is the NBA's day. LeBron was 1000% correct, and until proven otherwise, it's going to continue that way. And I'm glad NBA did a great job with the scheduling. All of these games are pretty entertaining for the most part. And yeah, I think that NBA ratings thing is definitely due to the inconvenient access of platforms and not because of the performance. Well, granted, last year's playoffs was not necessarily the greatest, so that plays some factor, but overall, more so due to the hard, um, hard compatibility opportunities to watch than the actual performance itself. So that being said, yeah, NBA was a great day. Or Christmas Day was great for NBA this year and always.
One last thing, too. Shout out to Mickey Mouse and the gang for their version of the Knicks and Spurs game. I don't know if you saw any of those clips online, but they
I
basically
actually didn't, but I should honestly.
it's actually so funny. They did this live. They reanimated basically the Knicks and Spurs game, but replaced the players with like either their own like little characters or with like Donald Duck. So or and like other Mickey characters. So at one point, Chris Paul turned into Mickey Mouse. Uh, Mikal Bridges became Donald Duck. Cat turned into Goofy, and they were all and it was just this animation that it was like live or maybe like a few seconds off, but it was basically the game just with these Disney characters. So it was really funny to see, like, you know how Mikael Bridges was like cooking, hitting those like midi fadeaways, the 3 pointers, and seeing that on the Disney stream, it was Donald Duck doing all that. At one point, Mikael shot a three from the corner and did his celly the with the gun thing with the head being going like that. And Donald Duck did the exact same thing, just doing that while running back to the other side. It was funny. Like the clips online was hilarious. So shout out to Mickey Mouse the gang for that.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Mickey Mouse and Game for that. And I will say one thing that I will mention, like NBA and NFL have been doing a good job of like going outside the box. Obviously, NBA just did the Disney Mickey Mouse cartoon action. That was really cool and funny. NFL also did like a Homer versus Bart a few weeks ago on a Monday night game. That was
I didn't
funny.
know about that. That's
Um,
cool.
yeah. Also, NFL did happen to have a few Nickelodeon games, which is funny. I
Oh, you
mean,
know what? I remember the Super Bowl where SpongeBob and Patrick were narrating or commentating over
yeah,
the Super Bowl.
yeah, that was funny. I will say this: the first 2 years of the project was hilarious because there happened to be a few mic'd up instances where a player dropped the F bomb. So it's like two strikes, three strikes, and you might be out. But yeah, point blank is I am glad these leagues are coming up with something to try to encourage the kids to watch also. Some kids grow up as athletes and they like sports from the jump. Others, maybe you'll encourage them to watch from something interactive like this. So I definitely like the creativity from both leagues here, honestly. That being said, I think we talked a good amount on the Christmas Day games. Shall we go on to the next games on my list?
Yeah, you could cover the rest of the games.
Sounds good. So I'll start with the first game. This was the Timberwolves versus the Rockets on December 27th. Um, so early in the game, in the second quarter, the Wolves were up by 10, but third quarter, Rockets took complete control. And matter of fact, midway in the fourth, with under 5 minutes left, Rockets were up by as much as 16, and it was looking like a blowout victory was coming for Houston. Not so fast. So for the final 4:41 left in the game, Wolves did not have a single empty possession. And what I mean by that is they did miss baskets, but they were able to grab the offensive rebound and end up still scoring, so it was not an empty trip. So that was how the Timberwolves were able to come back. They were able to capitalize on every possession from there. And so ultimately the game went down the wire. Um, at the end, Ant hits a good go-ahead three with 23 seconds left. Obviously, still a lot of time, so Rockets still have a chance. Fred VanVleet tries to respond, and he shoots a three of his own, but he ends up missing the final shot. And that was how the Wolves were able to come back and steal the game, winning by one single point, 113 to 112. Mighty impressive, erasing a 16-point deficit in under 5 minutes. So shout out to the Wolves for a very big win. And so now that brings us to the last game I have on my list. That's being the Bucks and the Pacers game on New Year's Eve, December 31st. Um, Pacers dominated most of the game leading into the fourth, but as they were led by as much as 19 halfway through the third, everything went downhill for the Pacers. That's when the Bucks started storming back in the fourth, turning a 19-point deficit ultimately to an 8-point victory. And that is in large thanks to a very great, well-balanced scoring performance by the Bucks. I believe like five players were in double digits, something like that. Giannis leading the way with 30 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. And so the Bucks were able to get a mini revenge from last year's NBA Cup and playoffs meetings. So shout out to the Bucks for getting a clutch win there. Anyhow, that concludes my list of top games that happened within the last 2 weeks. I think it is safe to say that the NBA did not disappoint during our little break, and definitely hope for more thrillers at the end. And I think if anything, these games confirm that the reasons why the ratings are dropping is not necessarily because of the performance, but because of the lack of accessibility. So maybe NBA, if you make games more accessible, people will not have to use pirating websites because you seem to be really bothered by that. But maybe do something. If it wasn't so expensive, not everyone would be using that. That's all I can say. Um, but yeah, shall we move on to the W list, or is there anything you would like to add on for these games?
No, I'm ready to move on to the W list if that's fine with you. And I
Yeah.
guess we could start off with the Cavs, who have had a 9 game win streak. Obviously, they're the team with the most amount of wins this season. They apparently have had a lot of blowouts, so that's good for them. Won every game by double digits. And what I noted, or what I read online recently, is that they are currently at a 7 win pace, a 70, not 7 win pace. Oh my god, that'd be awful. The Pelicans might be,
Oh,
but not the Cavs. The Cavs are at a 72-10 pace for the season, so that is similar to the Bulls' long-time record before the Warriors ended up beating it in 2016. With their 73-9. Uh, record. I froze for a sec. So thoughts on this? Thoughts on the Cavs continuing to dominate this season in the pretty surprising fashion, I would say.
I agree. I mean, obviously, 9 game winning streak, really good, regardless of what the circumstances are. And as mentioned, won every game by double digits, mighty impressive. And the fact that they are on a 72-10 pace for the season, which is the same that the Chicago Bulls did with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, so forth, very impressive. Now, a lot of people still have their doubts on the Cavs on whether they are a real contender. Um, I think that is understandable. And I guess the answer is we will see because so far, so good. And I think the biggest W for the Cavs during this win streak is that they were able to build a little bit of a cushion due to the Celtics losing some games that they usually probably wouldn't lose. I mean, at one point, the Celtics lost 3 out of 4 games earlier last week, I believe. They lost against, and they lost a lot of home games against very mid to mediocre teams that they shouldn't have. They lost against the Bulls at home. They lost against the Sixers at home. After beating the Pacers by like 35 or 37, whatever it was, on the second game of their back to back, they ended up losing to Indiana by like 15. That was embarrassing. But nonetheless, yeah, seeing the Celtics lose some games lately was definitely really nice, especially for the Cavs' sake. And now they have, I believe, a 4.5 lead in the Eastern Conference. So hopefully they can continue to build that cushion. I know last year when these two teams played in the playoffs, Cavs won one road game, didn't win a single home game. I would expect something different this year, like more competitive, win some home games maybe still win a road game. We'll see. But as far as whether they are real contenders, we will see on that as time will tell as we go deeper into the season. So far, so good. Cavs are rolling, and shout out to them.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question. Whether or not the Cavs are truly finals contenders. A lot of people don't think so, even though they are at a 72-10 pace. That is historic, you know. I know the Warriors had a 73-9 record and ended up not winning in the finals, but they at least made the finals. A lot of people don't even think the Cavs are going to make the finals because of how great Boston is, and they just won a chip last year. So I feel like they're getting disrespected, but at the same time, like, we still haven't seen this iteration of the team in the playoffs. Yeah, we saw them play against the Magic last year and the Celtics losing in like five or something. But that was before Kenny Atkinson, before the chemistry really clicked in. So we'll see how well they do this playoffs, but at the moment they are looking amazing.
Definitely. And for our sake, being Lakers fans and Celtics haters, definitely hope that the Cavs continue rolling and find a way to be one of those teams to possibly take down the Celtics in the playoffs. That being said, I think we can now move on to the next team on the W list, and that is another team in the Eastern Conference, being the New York Knicks. Um, they were on a 9 game win streak prior to Friday. They did end up losing at OKC tonight, but obviously no shame. I mean, OKC has the best record in the Western Conference and the second in the league overall. So, no shame there. It was close. They did lead a good amount. So, um, Knicks still rolling. And they were undefeated since the NBA Cup quarterfinal versus the Hawks. And they happened to beat a handful of bad teams, but they also beat a few decent teams like the commanding win in Minnesota in Ants return. I mean, in Cats return, and they also beat the Magic twice, who are shorthanded, but nonetheless still sitting atop of the East, top five or top four in standings. So good wins nonetheless there. And yeah, I think it's safe to say the Knicks are finally grooving after a relatively slow start. And honestly, love to see it. More competition to Celtics equals good. Any thoughts on the Knicks, Memo?
Yeah, just to continue off your point about them finally meshing together. It's looking great. You know, Mikal Bridges had a slow start this season, but now he's killing it. Cat is looking like one of the best centers in the league, possibly. I was gonna say top three, but maybe not there quite yet. Still though, or actually maybe because I'll put Joel out of the top three now. So it'll be like Jokic, it'll be Wemby, maybe AD, and then Cat, something like that. But yeah, he's been great. I think the Knicks defense has been improving. I don't think they're the number one offense anymore, but I think they're still top three. So everything is starting to come together for the Knicks, and it's exciting. I'd be very excited if I was a Knicks fan, you know. Um, so shout out to the Knicks, and yeah, I'm. That's all my thoughts on the Knicks. They did lose to the Thunder today, which Thunder is one of the best teams in the league. So, no shame there, as you said. But let's stick with the Thunder for a little bit because with that win, is that their 14th win in a row?
That is correct. Now the Thunder still have the longest remaining win streak in the league at 14. Now, technically, they did lose the NBA Cup championship game versus the Bucks in between, but because the game does not count against the record, it does not count as a real loss. So, Thunder are in a active 14 game winning streaks in games that actually count towards their record. And that being said, they have not lost a game in over a month. The last real game they lost, I believe, was December 1st against the Rockets, and now it's January 3rd. So, shout out to them for keeping it rolling there. And team is looking like a real contender as we expected, and so that puts them in a current tough 4 game stretch against some of the other top contenders at the moment. Now, obviously, last tonight they played against the Knicks, W. Next game they play against the Celtics, also at home. Good test there, hopefully win. And then the Thunder will travel on the road playing games at Cleveland and then at the Knicks in a rematch, this time in New York. So that's a good little stretch there for the Thunder to test where they really are right now. If they find a way to go 4-0, very impressive there. Even if they find a way to go 3-1, also really good. Now, If they go 2-2, still respectable 500 against three top teams, being the Knicks twice. Um, but I really wouldn't be shocked if the Thunder found a way to win all or at least three of those games. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the Thunder. They have been rolling, doing really good. Clearly the top team, at least in the Western Conference, arguably in the whole league, if you want to argue. And love to see it. I like OKC and their foundation they have been building. I think Mark Dagnall is doing a very great job. But that being said, any thoughts you would like to add on the Thunder before we move on?
Not much. Like it's just cool to see how dominant they are, especially with Chet being out for most of the season now. So having him return is gonna be scary for the rest of the league, especially when Chet was playing. He was looking like an all star. He was looking amazing. One of the best 3-and-D guys in the league as a center, which is crazy. One of the most elite shot blockers, I think, right behind Wemby. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the Thunder are gonna do once he comes back. I am curious about the playoffs. Will they be able to maintain this play in the playoffs? Because last year, other than Shea, nobody showed up, and that was pretty concerning. And then this year during the NBA Cup, the a few of the uh, members of the team didn't show up for the NBA Cup Finals. Most notably, J Dub, who should be the second best, at least scoring option on the team. So they're still young. I'm sure they're gonna move past this and be able to come through during the playoffs. But these are just a few question marks to throw out there. But other than that, yeah, they've been awesome. 14 game win streak is no joke. This is impressive. It is. But
Read there.
I guess that's it for Thunder. We have a couple more like mini winners. I like just added these because I just remembered about them. First mini winner is LeBron, who broke MJ's record for the most 30 plus point games in NBA history. He just scored his 563rd 30-point plus game. So shout out to LeBron. Took him a lot more seasons, I'll say that, but still, it's still impressive to reach that milestone.
Absolutely. Any milestone like this, regardless how long it took you, very mighty impressive. So shout out LeBron for continuing to break the record books. And I think that is where we can move on to the next topic, which I will let Memo once again take the reins because this is another last minute ad from Memo. Um, I'm sure he has more knowledge than me. So without further ado, take the lead.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just recently, the city of Chicago celebrated Derrick Rose and his legendary career by giving him his own day. January 4th is officially Derrick Rose Day in Chicago. So shout out to everybody in Chicago, the governor, Derrick Rose, for all that because it's really cool. Derrick Rose should be celebrated because he was not only a great basketball player but an impactful uh what's the word? Just what's the word? Just impactful. Yeah, but like a figure, an impactful figure for Chicago.
Oh.
So
Great public icon, I guess we could say.
yeah, yeah, he's iconic in Chicago. So they celebrated him. They did a pop up like flower shop where they gave out roses to people who were waiting in line. And they got to meet Derrick Rose and stuff. It was a cool little event to celebrate Derrick Rose too. So yeah, shout out to all of them because that was pretty neat.
Definitely. And very happy about that also. I did happen to be a really big Derrick Rose fan. Obviously, unfortunate that he had to deal with some major injuries that made him no longer the explosive athlete that he once was early in his career, including his peak 2011 MVP season. But nonetheless, later on, he was able to get injured a little bit less and still have a relatively decent career as a role player. So, huge fan of D Rose. My only regret is the fact that one, obviously he didn't get to win a championship, and two, it would have been cool if he could have like maybe signed a 1 year contract to return with the Bulls, just so he ends his career where it started and at home. But nonetheless, still a really good career. I mean, in a way, he did start where his collegiate career started, not his childhood in Memphis as a role player, but still cool there. I mean, didn't end in Chicago, then I guess Memphis is the next best place for his sake. That being said, shout out to the city of Chicago for a great gesture, and I look forward to the retirement jersey for sure.
Yeah, that'll be cool for sure. But that's everything in the W list. So I think this would be a good time to move on to the L list. And we got some stinkers. We got some stinkers this week. And we're going to start off with probably the biggest story of the week, which is the Heat and Jimmy Butler's messy divorce. There's been rumors for a bit now about Jimmy Butler possibly not being happy in Miami, possibly wanting to be traded. Um, I think we covered this. Shams reported that Jimmy was frustrated and he wanted to be traded like sometime in December, I think. And then Jimmy's agent called Shams out for that and said it was entirely not true. Eventually, Pat Riley made a statement through the Miami Heat Twitter account saying that they're not planning on trading Jimmy Butler. But you could tell there was tension over there in Miami throughout the whole year, basically, with Jimmy Butler not getting his extension, with Pat Riley calling out Jimmy Butler during the playoffs because Jimmy Butler made a comment while being injured, while not playing in the playoffs, saying that if he was in the game, they would win easily. And he did it in like in a cocky tone. And Pat Riley called him out, saying that you shouldn't be talking if you're not playing, which I feel like isn't like a totally bad thing. I think that was a fair shot to Jimmy Butler, honestly. What do you think about that? We never really talked about that last year. I at least don't think so. But did you think that was a very disrespectful from Pat Riley, or do you think that was fair?
So to start, you're right. I don't think we did talk about it last year. But that being said, I think that it was definitely fair in the sense that like if you're not on the court, what you said is even if it is true, kind of irrelevant because the fact of the matter is those if like coulda, shoulda, wouldas at the end of the day did not happen. So we don't know for sure. Now, do I agree with what he said? Um, I don't know. I mean, historically speaking, the Heat do have the Celtics number, so probably not last year, but you just never know. But that being said, I do think that Pat Riley definitely did have a right to speak back, and sure, maybe he could have changed his wording a little bit to not make it as bit a direct jab as I guess unpleasantly sounding. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's wrong. I mean, like, if you're not on the floor, then it's kind of irrelevant because what happened on the floor is for the players that actually played. That being said, obviously, I am a fan of Jimmy Butler and I like him on the Heat. Reality is he's probably on his way out very soon. Now, I think that is where we can possibly talk like where do I think he's gonna end up? I mean, it seems like rumors point towards Warriors or Suns. I don't know about the Suns though, because that means that the Heat will probably be getting Bradley Beal, and I don't think they want him. So I think maybe more likely Warriors. And I don't know what to say, honestly. I don't want him to go on the Warriors, part of me in my fandom side of his. But at the same time, like, I really don't know how much Jimmy Butler would really help that Warriors team. Knowing one, he has been very injury prone lately. And two, like, key question really is who are the Warriors going to give up to get him? I mean, like, maybe Jonathan Kuminga. Um, Seems like they do not want to get rid of Pause at any cost for whatever reason. I mean, like he's not no like savior that's really untouchable. I mean, like yeah. But yeah, we'll see. If I were to make a prediction, I would probably say Jamie gets traded to the Warriors. I don't know how confident I am in that though.
I
So I guess go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think you're right. I think the Warriors is the most likely destination. There were rumors for the Nuggets if they, do a three-team trade, send like Michael
Yeah,
Porter Jr. and some other stuff
Michael Porter. Yeah,
uh, for Jimmy. There was also rumors about Houston, but the timeline does not fit. Like even though they need like a fourth quarter guy, and Jimmy Butler could be that guy, he's just way too old. Like this is a young team.
yeah,
They should stick with their core right now. But yeah,
agreed.
the reasons why all of these uh, trade talks are popping up just to finish like the messy divorce part of all this is again he didn't get the extension. Pat Riley called him out. I got the exact quote now. He said, "If you're not on the court playing, you should keep your mouth shut." So not necessarily the most respectful thing to say, but I think that was very fair of him to say. And yeah, eventually, both sides were denying about Jimmy wanting to leave. But as the season continued, Jimmy seemed a lot less engaged. His usage rate went a lot lower. Tyler Hero was looking like the number one option, scoring wise. And yeah, Jimmy was just acting weird, acting cryptic, changing his hair color a lot. And this ultimately led to this week where Jimmy said he does not feel joy while playing basketball here in Miami. He eventually asked for a formal trade request, and Shams claims that Jimmy doesn't mind where he goes. He literally would like to go to any other team in the league except for the Heat. And because of all this, Jimmy did get suspended for 7 games by the Miami Heat for essentially sabotaging the team due to lack of effort and causing turmoil. And because of the suspension, he will be losing over $3 million. The exact figure is $3,729,159 due to the suspension. So that's all the messy stuff that's been going on this week. Um, I know you were about to talk about the top possible trades and stuff, but would you like to talk about that and what's been going on this week? Because it's been very chaotic, and I'm sure that Jimmy will be traded. Just the question is where.
Yeah, and obviously segueing off what I said, you also mentioned the rumors of Nuggets and Rockets. Um I really do think the Rockets one makes a lot less sense due to the fact one, obviously Jimmy is up and aging, but two, like the Rockets are building something so good right now, and they're literally a top three seed in the West. Question is like, yes, my thing is yes, they do need a better closer at the end of the game. But if their foundation at the moment is working good, I would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it in the sense of do not break the good trend that you have going on. Now, how far would this game team go in the playoffs? I don't know. I mean, like I say probably second round at most likely at this moment, but you never know. But point is, I really don't think Houston really makes a lot of logical sense there. Um, Nuggets, maybe. I mean, if they're able to find a three and the third team to get added in the package, I mean, that would be something. Imagine Jamie goes to the Nuggets after playing them in the finals a few years ago. And like, I don't know who all they have to give up, but like, if it's just Michael Porter Jr. and not much else, like I think that's a risk worth taking for the Nuggets, especially knowing like they're still a good team, but they took a step back this year. And yes, they're still top four in the Western Conference, but their record probably should be better. So I feel like probably he will end up on the Warriors. But if I were to say who might be the runner up, low key, maybe Nuggets. But I don't know how confident I am in that though.
Yeah, I do think it will be the Warriors, as I said earlier. I think Kaminga is out of there. Andrew Wiggins will have to go, I think, as well, which sucks. I know Warriors do like Wiggins. If they could somehow, if the Warriors are smart enough, they would get rid of Pods as well because I know he's been kind of a disaster this year. Uh, but yeah, I think the team that needs to do this the most is actually the Warriors as well because Steph is getting older. He's been having a few like horrible games. I know he just recently had like a 30-point game where he didn't miss eight threes, so he scored eight threes without missing. That's cool. But he also had like a 2-point game recently and like uh poor shooting performances. So getting him some help offensively would be great. Um and help in general in order to help Steph's career and maybe get into the playoffs, maybe a finals run, even though I think you're more of a believer in Jimmy than I am. I've always thought he's like a bit overrated, a bit of a loose cannon that like I don't trust him. Even though Jimmy playoff Jimmy is kind of a thing. It's not a thing if he's not playing, and he's oftentimes not playing. So yeah, I don't. I think this is a risk that the Warriors should take, but like let's say the Lakers wanted to trade for him, it's a no for me. I don't want him on my team at all. Like I don't. He's too much of a loose cannon for me to want to trade for a guy like this. I think you have to be very desperate in order to want an aging Jimmy Butler whose contract is expiring, who's gonna want a lot of money this off season, and who has shown to be a locker room cancer at times if things don't go his way. But I think the Warriors are desperate enough, so I think they should probably go for it and hopefully get a good deal because clearly the Heat don't want Jimmy Butler anymore. They probably want to get rid of him as soon as possible. As we saw, they just suspended him. They're not they're not dealing with this nicely. So yeah, I think they'll take almost any package and would love to ship Jimmy away. So this is the time for the Warriors to do it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And as mentioned earlier, I do not know how much better Jimmy will make the Warriors, but I think your point is definitely correct. They are desperate enough to want to go after him. And yeah, I also agree. I don't think I would want him on the Lakers either because too much of a drama queen when things are not in his favor. Now, I mentioned I am a big fan of his, especially in the playoffs, but I just don't think he would fit in with the team culture on the Lakers. So, that being said, Warriors, you want to go after him? Go ahead. We'll see what happens with the fit, though. And yeah, hopefully the Heat and Jimmy are able to resolve something because it is indeed getting very ugly.
Yeah. Bro, imagine Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler on the same team.
Oh my
What's gonna
god.
happen when Jimmy Butler calls Draymond Green an expensive backpack for Steph?
Bro, it
Imagine what's
would
gonna
be
happen.
that would be so funny, honestly. Like, yeah, I really wouldn't be shocked if that team ended up missing the playoffs, though. Like, if you're asking me if it's more likely they make it or miss it, I might honestly say miss it. Especially because the Warriors are on a downward spiral right now. And granted, they win games every now and then. Like, yeah, I think Warriors are kind of cooked at the moment, barring a massive miracle.
Yeah. I think that's enough for Heat Talk. Now we can move on to the Kings, who have been definitely one of the biggest losers. Not only recently, but this season. This has been a very disappointing season for the Kings. They just acquired DeMar DeRozan this offseason in hopes to help the team after last year, which was a very disappointing season. They didn't make the playoffs after making the playoffs a year before that. So, with DeMar, they were hoping to improve, but that is not the case. Not only, I believe they have a losing record right now, but DeMar has been looking awful for the Kings. He's starting to look washed over there. And yeah, it's been very disappointing. Just recently, they had a disappointing loss against the Pistons where they were winning by 3 and De'Aaron Fox did a stupid foul and caused a 4-point play to essentially give the Pistons the win. Mike Brown was very mad about that and respectfully called out De'Aaron Fox for that stupid foul, but he also mentioned how they shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. That there's a lot of stuff that the team could have done better. After that, the next day, it was looking normal. They had practice and stuff. Mike Brown was heading to the airport, got a phone call, and was fired. Was fired even though he helped end a 16 season drought there in Sacramento from making the playoffs, even though he was the unanimous coach of the year the season that they made the playoffs. The Mike Brown turned this organization around. You ended up the front office ended up not finding defensive pieces to help out the Kings, even though that was something they needed to improve on. So Mike Brown didn't have much to go off of to work with. He did the best as he could, and you fire the guy. You fire the guy after he literally changed the dynamic of the team. He's the culture. He's the reason why they improved so much from the past. And he just tried his best. He was amazing over there. And they fired him, which was very disappointing. Now, I know I've heard Kings fans say that there was a few things that they didn't like from Mike Brown. They didn't like how he refused to bench DeMar DeRozan in order to have some of their better defenders start instead. But with that said, all this does not give a good reason on why to fire Mike Brown. Again, he won Coach of the Year unanimously. Oh my God, unanimously a couple years ago because he broke that 16-year drought, and you're just gonna fire the guy for almost no reason. I thought this was very shocking. A lot of coaches throughout the league thought this was very disrespectful. Michael Malone said that the Kings had no balls, no class for firing him like that. The issue was not Mike Brown. The issue was how the team was constructed and how there's like zero defenders. How he traded for an older DeMar who, like, shout out to DeMar. I love DeMar. I think he gets disrespected too much. But what was he going to do to help the Kings defensively? Like, we talked about this, I believe. How, although, yeah, he's amazing offensively, even though that's not necessarily the case this year. Defensively, he was not going to help. And not only is that true, again, his offense is looking horrid at the moment, and it's just has not been looking good over there in Sacramento. So I think this was a very stupid decision from the Kings to fire Mike Brown for reasons that is not even his fault. So what are your thoughts on this?
I definitely agree in the sense of I think that Mike Brown was clearly just scapegoated in this situation. And it's so often that like it's the head coach is the um unfair scapegoat. Because like a lot of the times it's the front office that makes a mistake. And then because they don't want to admit their errors. they decide to fire the head coach when a lot of times he's not even the reason why the team is really playing bad. The reason is the team, as you mentioned, is not well constructed and the players are just not executing point blank. So yeah, I agree honestly with what Mike Malone said. Obviously, we're not necessarily the biggest Mike Malone fans, especially after all his trash talk to the Lakers. But like, this is a matter we cannot disagree with him on. Like, shouldn't have been booted. And I don't know if you saw, but did you see that one video when NBA players and coaches were wishing LeBron a happy birthday and Mike Brown was in the clip? Many people are saying, damn, Mike Brown literally took a break from cleaning his desk to wish LeBron a happy birthday. If so, that is tough, man. Like, shout out to him for wishing LeBron a happy birthday. But if it really was during when he was clearing his desk after getting fired,
That would
that's fucked
suck.
up.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. That was not the way that things should have been handled. And I will say this though, shockingly for the Kings, they have been playing better lately. They are currently on a 3-game winning streak. And they actually did happen to beat some decent teams. Granted, some of them were shorthanded. They beat the Mavs, Sixers, and Grizzlies all at home. And as far as Doug Christie goes as the interim head coach, I don't know. Maybe he could be the permanent head coach soon, but I don't know, man. I just still think that the Kings were wrong for what they did with Mike Brown. That is why I will call them the Sacramento Queens instead, like what Shaq did. Yeah, that franchise does not appreciate the man that literally helped them end the drought. Like, what are we doing, man? Yeah, I definitely agree with everyone in the league that was upset about this move because it was the wrong move. But hopefully, Doug Christie can continue to build the team in the right direction going forward.
Yeah, I hope so. I kind of feel bad for Kings fans, but yeah, it's whatever. It's, it is what it is, I guess. Shout out Mike Brown. I hope you find a team that appreciates you. So
I mean, like, maybe in the offseason, the Warriors bring him back and hit their coaching
that's
staff, which
what
would
people
honestly
were
be a
saying.
sneaky
Yeah.
that would be a sneaky good move for them, which, I mean, me being a Warriors hater, I don't necessarily want to see that happen. But at the same time, like, he deserves to be somewhere. So hopefully he does find a spot there. Obviously, he did not necessarily have the greatest stint with the Lakers, but nonetheless, a former Lakers head coach. So wishing him the best.
I forgot about that, but yeah, he was Lakers head
Yeah,
coach.
he coached LeBron
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then Kobe. And then, do you remember he got rehired by the Cavs for 1 year, and then they fired him again? Yeah, when they had Kyrie in like his third season or something like that.
Mm,
Yeah, a lot of crazy turnaround for that man. But yeah, I'm sure he will find an opportunity, whether it is in the assistant coach or maybe even a head coach again.
yeah, well deserved. Like he's really good. I think he's good, even though some of the Kings fans were
Yeah,
complaining about his decisions. He definitely did not deserve to get fired.
I agree.
Moving on, we've got a lot of losing streaks actually to talk about. Hoops, would you like to cover them?
Yeah, for sure. So starting with the now longest losing streak after one ended. The Charlotte Hornets are currently on a 9-game losing streak, and they lost to the Wizards twice during the losing streak, which in itself is very embarrassing. Only the Hawks have done the same thing. Like, lose to the Wizards once, let alone twice in the season, is very embarrassing. And yeah, not a good look there. And all I want to say is free Melo, man. He deserves better. Um, but next team I have on the list, also on a pretty big losing streak right now, the Mavs. So they're currently on a 4-game losing streak, and they lost against 2 bad teams and 2 good teams, losing against the Blazers, Kings, Rockets, and Cavs. And their last win happened to be against the Suns when the Yusuf Nurkic and whatever. I forgot what the other guy's name was. Had like the
Najee Marshall were
Najee
going at
Marshall.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that like obviously if him throwing the punch is more severe than like maybe the things that Nurkic did, but the fact of the matter is I honestly do think Nurkic should have been suspended the
He
same amount of
started
time.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, what the hell? Anyways, yeah, the Mavericks have been unfortunately on the downside lately, but hopefully they can get better. I know that Luka and Kyrie both missed a few games, and hopefully get back in the groove as they get healthier. But that being said, we just barely mentioned the Mavs game against the Suns, and so that brings us to the next team on the L list being the Phoenix Suns. They are currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they have lost 3 out of the last 7 overall. And I think their worst loss really was I believe their last loss or second to last loss, where they lost against the Grizzlies at home earlier this week, who were super short-handed, missing 9 players, including John Morant, Zach Edey, Gigi Jackson, Marcus Smart, and more. And not only did they lose against shorthanded Grizzlies team, they did not even have the lead once. That's embarrassing. I mean, if you think about it, this is kind of like the Grizzlies team last year, if they're missing all those key players. So, yeah, bad luck there. But yeah, Suns, they have been struggling even after AD return, and I love to see it. I don't like the Suns. Neither of us do. So, hopefully they keep going in the downwards spiral. But next team on the L list is the Utah Jazz, sitting at the bottom of the Western Conference and currently on a 5-game losing streak. They only won 2 games in the entire month of December, being against the Pistons and the Nets, and it was funny enough a 2-game win streak. But at along the 5-game losing streak right now, they were previously on a 7-game losing streak before those 2 games. And yeah, it's been a tough season for the Jazz. They need to unload some aspects to try to get more draft capital, in my opinion. All I gotta say is free Lowry Markkinen, man. I know he's not eligible to be traded due to the extension, but please, maybe next offseason or something, free this man. He deserves better. But that brings us to the last team on the L list, being the New Orleans Pelicans, who were on a 11-game losing streak prior to Friday, though they did end up beating the Wizards tonight at home to finally end that streak. And CJ McCollum put the team on his back, putting up 50 points. And although the streak finally ended, it is obviously still very embarrassing to have that long of a losing streak to go over 10 games, even 5 games, 3 games, 4 games is bad. So, yeah, 11-game losing streak is never good. So, that being said, they do not have the longest losing streak anymore due to that win, but they are still not looking very good. So, I guess that could bring us to the next question. As far as these losing streaks go, which one is the most concerning? I guess Memo, would you like to go first since I talked a handful and then I'll respond to whatever you say?
Yeah. So most of these teams are trying to tank, so it's not necessarily concerning for them. I feel like the Suns losing streak, is too short to say. So I'm eyeing the Mavs, maybe the Hornets as well, because yeah, they're in tank mode. We didn't expect them to really be this bad. Uh, they do have only 7 wins in the season, which is pretty low. I honestly didn't expect them to be this bad, but I'm more concerned about the Mavs because they are losing, and that is due to injury, of course. But even before this losing streak, like in November when Luka was out, they had a nice long winning streak with Luka
Yeah.
out, and then when he returned. So seeing them starting to lose now with Luka out, and you did say Kyrie was out as well for a few of these games. It's a bit concerning, but to you, were any of these concerning, or maybe even shocking? If you can't think of a concerning one.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely say that I do think the Mavs one was shocking. I mean, as you mentioned, they had a great month in December, and they follow up with a horrid end of December to early January. So, not looking good at the moment. But honestly, I am confident the Mavs will be able to turn it around and start grooving again soon once they are able to get healthier and Luka and Kyrie stay on the court together consistently. But to answer the question on which losing streak is the most concerning, I honestly might go with the Suns, honestly, because they have been looking really bad lately. And the thought initially was because, KD was out. Of course they're gonna struggle. Their number one option is down. But um like he returned, and granted Devin Booker missed a few games. It's still bad when they have lost 3 of the last 7 games. Or I think 3 of the last 7 was probably an incorrect number. It probably was like 6 of the last 7. I think I wrote an error there. But nonetheless, not good. The Suns dropped quite a bit in the standings. I believe they're not even in the playoff picture at the moment, and I don't even know if they are in the play-in. They might be like low in the play-in. Um, they are not in the play-in. They are the 11th seed right now. I think that's concerning for sure. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that they will get better, but yeah, so far, not very good. And that's why I think probably the Suns are the most concerning team from the current losing streaks.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. That's actually like a really good point. So, you're convincing me. You're convincing me. But that's it for the W and Ellis. We do have some news, some All Star news. During our break, I believe they started the NBA All Star voting. So you guys can all vote now for your favorite players to make the All Star game, even though it's going to be a very weird All Star game. And the starting situation is going to be confusing because, we're choosing 5 starters from each conference, but there's going to be 3 teams that need starters, with the fourth team, being the Rising Stars team. So that's going to be confusing, but nevertheless, the first fan returns are in. And there's some shocking names in here, or some names that doesn't come to mind at first, but when you think about it a little bit, it makes sense. Should we go over the entire list, or should we just talk about like the more shocking names?
Honestly, we could just speed through, I guess. I guess how about since for the standings you did West, I did East, we will then reverse and I'll do West, you do East for this.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. So for the Western Conference fan standings so far, starting with the front court, at number one we got Nikola Jokic with over 1,400,000 votes. And then at number two, we got KD with over 1,000, around 1,200,000 votes. And number three, we have LeBron, who is shockingly third. I would have thought he would be first, but man, he is third. Kind of shocking. I mean, pretty really shocking there, with a million over 1,100,000. And then number four is his teammate AD with just barely under a million with 999,540. Wemby at number five was 928,000. Alperen Şengün was 314,223. J-Dub was 188,000. Andrew Wiggins, a little bit of a shocker there, 187,000. It's because of the Warriors fans, by the way. Number nine, Domantas Sabonis, 148,000. Number 10, Jaren Jackson Jr., 103,000. So that is the front court in the Western Conference. Now to the guards. Number one, we got SGA with over a million votes. Luka has 870,000 votes. Steph has 810,000 votes. Kyrie has 503,000 votes. Ant has 411,000 votes. Harden has 314,000 votes. John Morant has 213,000 votes. De'Aaron Fox has 132,000 votes. Devin Booker has 120,000 votes, and shocker here, Norman Powell has 110,000 votes. So that is the current NBA fan voting of the Western Conference so far.
Yeah, sticking with the West though, there, as you said, were a lot of shocking things like LeBron not being number one. This is probably the first time that has ever happened in a long time.
A
Um,
long time.
we got Andrew Wiggins, who should not be here whatsoever, but the Warriors fans
I
always
agree.
come through. Um, and you said Norman Powell was shocking, although I don't think he will be an All Star this year. He's been balling out for
Yeah.
the Clippers. Not
He
gonna lie, he's been
has
like
been
the
having
number
a breakout
one.
season.
Yeah, yeah. At his like old age too, he's been having a breakout season. And he kind of plays like an all star right now, being the number one scoring
Yeah.
option, I believe, number one or number two behind Harden, who has
Yeah.
some votes, which is a little shocking as well, because
Also shocking.
just a little bit, just a little bit. I think he should be lower than John Morant or De'Aaron
I
Fox,
agree.
but he's still
Definitely.
he's still doing his thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely agreed. Some shockers, some slight shockers, not crazy shockers. And for the most part, there are some respectable ones. And as far as who should be on here that aren't, I haven't really thought about it, so I'm not sure at the moment, but probably one could argue.
yeah, there's always players that people can argue about, but I'm not gonna think about it
Yeah,
because for the most part, a lot of this makes sense.
I
But
agree.
let's move on to the Eastern Conference. Starting with the front court, I am not going over the amount of votes. You guys can look that up. I'm not going through that hassle. So I'll just name them 1 through 10. Starting with number one, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's been like the number one front court man for a while now. So shout out to him. Number two, Jason Tatum. Number three, very well deserved, Carl Anthony Towns. Number four, Paulo Banchero. Five, Jalen Brown. Six, Jimmy Butler. Seven, Franz Wagner. Eight, Joel Embiid. Nine, Paul George. And 10, Evan Mobley. Some Evan Mobley love down there. That's nice. And for the guards, number one, LaMelo Ball. Even though the Hornets have like only 7 wins, people love to watch Melo play, and I kind of would like to see him play in the All Star game. So he is number one. Number two, Donovan Mitchell. Number three, Damian Lillard. Number four, Jalen Brunson. Number five, Trey Young. Number six, Cade Cunningham. Number seven, Tyrese Maxey. Number eight, Jordan Poole. Number nine, Tyler Hero. And number 10, Derek White. So there's definitely some shockers here as well. What are some of the biggest shockers for you?
Yeah, as far as the biggest shockers here go, let's see. Definitely Jordan Poole. I think Tyler Hero is a little bit shocked here as well. Um, Due to how many votes Derek White got last year, I'm not shocked this time. Maybe I was last year. And aside from that, honestly, like a lot of the front court doesn't really shock me that much. So I would say mainly those guys, honestly, shock me for Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I will say Tyler Hero is making a good case over there
Yeah,
in Miami. He's definitely stepped up, but Jordan Poole should not be here. As much as I
yeah.
think
I
Derek
think
White is a talented player, I don't think he should be here.
I agree. I think in this case, Jordan Poole happens to be the polar bear in Arlington, Texas.
Exactly, exactly.
That meme is funny.
Yeah, it is. Um, So yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, I guess another shocking thing: Nikola Jokic being number one in the West is pretty
Yeah,
surprising. He's not a guy that screams, megastar. Usually the megastars are voted number one, but Jokic being number one is cool. He's getting the respect he deserves. Uh, as we all know, he is the best player in the league. So seeing him be number
I
one
agree.
is cool.
And I will say, I think that low key Luca kinda has lower votes so far than I expected too. I mean, he's still number two in guards, but he does not even have a million. Only has not even 900,000. He has 870,000. So that also shocked me a little bit for sure. Granted, it was only the first week, right? But yeah, that was definitely a shock for me.
Yeah, maybe pretty soon we could make a dedicated episode going over like our predictions for uh, NBA All Star voting. I guess we got to think about that a bit more, but yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to talk about that.
Yeah,
But
for sure. We can definitely consider doing that in another episode soon to come. I mean, obviously, All Star Weekend is like what, a month and a half away, so um, it's coming soon, surely but surely. I mean, slowly but surely, but really, it's not that slow. It's gonna come quickly. Um, yeah, we can definitely do that in a future episode, probably relatively soon. But I think we can move on to our final topic of the episode, and that happened to be a trade that happened last week during our little break, and that was the Lakers finally made a move after like what over a year and a half of no trades. Um, so Lakers ended up making a trade with the Nets. They acquired Shake Milton and Dorian Finney-Smith from Brooklyn in exchange for D'Angelo Russell, Maxwell Lewis, and draft consideration. And I believe it was 3 second round picks. So I remember that many people thought that the Nets were really close to making a trade with the Grizzlies initially. Um, and to each his own, the Grizzlies offered 1 first round pick. Ultimately, the Nets decided they would rather get 3 second round picks, and that's understandable. So, without further ado, um, I will actually mention what the original trade was with Grizzlies because I have it handy. So, the original trade proposal between the Nets and the Grizzlies was going to be Grizzlies receive Dorian Finney-Smith and second-round considerations. Nets receive 2025 first-round pick, top 15 protected, Luke Kennard and John Conchar. So one can argue which trade was better for the Nets. Personally, I might honestly say the Nets probably made the right move. I mean, like, talking about 3 picks versus 1 pick, whether it is first round or second round, if you think about it, the Grizzlies are a pretty high seeded team. They're probably gonna get a very late second round or first round pick. So if it's a late first round pick, it's almost a second round pick. So I would say Nets made the right move, and by doing so, D'Angelo Russell is now back in Brooklyn, and he is literally on his second cycle of his career. I mean, he started with the Lakers and then went to the Nets. Now he's once again second stint with Lakers, second stint with Nets. So probably maybe coming soon, he'll have second stint with Warriors and then second stint with Timberwolves. We shall see. Anyhow, I believe D'Angelo actually had a pretty solid first game with the Nets. Unfortunately, I believe he did get hurt his second game. And unfortunately, Maxwell Lewis did get hurt too. So definitely prayers to the two former Lakers. I hope it is nothing major and they will be good to go soon. But for the Lakers' sake, I think that at least on paper, a really good move that had to be made. I mean, we're able to get a solid 3-and-D wing in Dorian Finney-Smith, and Shake Milton was honestly a sneaky good add too. I mean, like he was shooting really effectively from the field earlier this season with the Nets, and yeah, I think that was a sneaky good add. And the fact that we gave up 3 seconds and not even a first, I think that was also a plus for the Lakers' sake. So overall, I am happy that the Lakers made this trade. Memo, what are your thoughts on this trade between the Lakers and the Nets?
um, I have mixed feelings. Although the Lakers side of me is happy because we are getting a better defender, a perimeter defender, which is something we desperately need. We have like no perimeter defense, especially with Vando being out for like the longest time. It was basically we're basically all just like being carried defensively by Anthony Davis, who tries his best and does a great job, but he needs help. So I do think Dorian Finney-Smith is going to help with that, especially during crunch time. Just slot him in and play great defense, go against their best player. I think he could do that for us and make a few threes. Shake Milton as well can be a bucket for our bench, which is also something we need help with. Some bench production. So getting those two, getting rid of Maxwell Lewis, who unfortunately is going to miss the rest of the season. So that's very unfortunate. And getting rid of D'Angelo Russell as well, who's been inconsistent, is not too big of a loss for the Lakers. And again, the 3 second round picks is really no biggie. There's talks about maybe throwing in first rounders with D'Lo, but luckily the Lakers avoided that. With all that said, though, I've always had a sweet spot for D'Lo. I've always liked him. I remember one of our first big debates in high school was me was choosing which point guard the Lakers should go with, D'Angelo Russell or Lonzo Ball, uh, which is funny because both of the careers didn't pan out as great as we were both hoping for. But I remember
Yeah.
just rooting for D'Lo because I've always liked how he played, and still like how he plays. He's a risk taker, but unfortunately for him, uh, taking risks can have his highs and has its lows. Like we've seen him come through and help us win games in the playoffs before, help us win the Warriors series and the Grizzlies series a few years ago. But we've also seen him have some stinkers, have him not come through during important games. So yeah, I always liked D'Lo. I am gonna miss him, but this was something that was needed to be done for the Lakers' sake.
Agreed there. And yeah, I think the thing about D'Lo is he does really good when he's like on the trade block. Like last year, pre-trade deadline, this man was on fire, man. And then had the Lakers second thinking themselves, man, maybe we don't want to trade him. But and he had some good playoff series 2 years ago against the Grizzlies and the Warriors. The frustrating part is that he just never shows up against the Nuggets. Both years he had horrible shooting performances against Denver. He did have one good game against the Nuggets last year in game two, which the Lakers still happened to lose, unfortunately. I do not want to be reminded, but yeah, that's what happened. Anyhow, I do appreciate D'Lo for what he did for us despite his inconsistencies. I will say I was a much, even though he was still frustrating to watch, I was a bigger fan of him his second stint than the first stint. I think the first stint he was just very immature. Obviously there was the Nick Young situation and all that stuff. But yeah, I wish him the best for sure in Brooklyn. Seems like honestly a good fit for them. Him, if you think about it, aside from the chances of winning, but like as we mentioned before, the Nets are a sneaky good team. They have no business winning and they find a way to beat good teams. So yeah, there's all I gotta say there. Wish D'Lo the best. Wish Maxwell a speedy recovery, and definitely excited to see what um, Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton bring to the team. Hopefully, Lakers make one more trade for a defensive center, and maybe we will be closer to being a possible real contender soon.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end things off. That's everything we wanted to cover in this episode. We covered a lot, but we missed a lot, so it makes sense. But yeah, make sure you guys like the video if you are watching on YouTube. Subscribe as well. Leave a comment. That'd be great. If you're on audio platforms, leave us a 5-star rating and review. That would be cool. Check out our socials. I actually did recently talk about my feelings about D'Lo being traded recently on a TikTok and short. So check out that. Anything you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, just per usual, thank you guys for the constant support to our channel. We greatly appreciate it. We would not be anywhere really without the support from you guys, our viewers, our fans, whatever you want to be called. Um, if you enjoy our content, please make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share. Um, and also follow us, of course, on Spotify, TikTok, and all our other platforms. Um, yeah, as mentioned, we had a lot of catching up this episode, and for the most part, I think we did it in a relatively respectable time, even though it was long. So, yeah, thank you guys as always, and we will come up with some interesting ideas soon, including potentially the All Star related episodes. So, make sure you guys stay tuned. Thank you.
Yes, but with all that said, thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.